Hello Steelers, and welcome to this video in which I'm going to show you how I painted this old wooden barn. A number of people have asked me recently how I painted a Russian village that was predominantly made out of wooden houses. One thing you'll notice with untreated wood is that it goes grey pretty fast, so this technique should work pretty well for any wooden building across the entire world. So, without further ado, let's get into it. This is a 3D printed model by Patrick Models, and I've already mounted it on a small base of plastic card cut to the right size and then textured with Vallejo's texture paste. We need to give it a basic undercoat primer to complement the later colours, and for this I use burnt umber acrylic. I have a big tube of this from a cheap art supplier, and it is a great base coat for wood. Priming the model will also bring everything together, including the base. I'm using a big brush here just to show you the basic way of doing this, but you could easily do this with a rattle can or even an airbrush. Whichever method you choose, just ensure that the entire model is covered in the paint, even giving it a second coat if required. Then we start with the main colours of the wood themselves, and for this I'm using green grey by Vallejo. If you can get a cheaper version of this, then do that, as you use a lot of this in painting old wood. Using a large flat brush, I give the entire model a pretty heavy dry brush against the grain of the wooden planking where possible. Dry brushing is pretty easy. You simply put the paintbrush into the paint and then wipe it off on a kitchen towel or a cloth. And then using big strokes, just go over the model, paying attention to ridges and wall edges. It's best to build this up and start lightly, working your way up, as it's a lot easier to add more paint than it is to remove it. The next layer is German Camouflage Beige World War II. Again, this is by Vallejo. This is a nice brownish grey colour and works very well for the old wood look. This should be dry brushed over the entire model once again, but as it is lighter in colour, pay more attention again to the ridges and the edges just to bring out those as highlights. And again, apply this lightly so not to obscure the previous dry brushing stage. The lighter you do this, the more you can go over to get the look you want. Then we have one final dry brushing stage, and that is using Vallejo's Stone Grey. As with the other paints used, this has a slight green hue to the greyness, which can be very useful for hitting the raised areas and creating a bit of depth over all the model. As I said before, do this stage as lightly as possible, just to ensure you don't cover too much of the previous stages of dry brushing. However, also use it to pick up those highlights again on the ridge of the roof and also on the corners of the walls. And that is the basic dry brushing stage finished. And if you wanted to, you could leave it there, as it's a quick and simple way of weathering wood. But I wanted to add a bit more depth to the colour, and I did this with Flory Wash's Grime wash. This is a clay wash which is great for weathering models including buildings. The colour is a brownish green which fits well with the rest of the wood, and once it's dry you can reactivate it and wipe it off with a wet cloth to leave some of the wash in recesses. I did this quite roughly, leaving some of the wash on. And then finally, I added roof streaks and weathering using weathering pencils from AK Interactive. These watercolour pencils are very easy to apply wet and are then streaked with a brush to simulate rainfall and water weathering. Once that it is dry, it's just a case of varnishing the model to seal it and adding any other further details such as static grass on the base. Okay, I hope this video has been some use and has shown you a quick and easy way of weathering old wood. Let me know in the comments if it worked for you and if you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to check out my Patreon and also channel memberships where you can help keep the lights on at Steel Towers, and also subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. Thanks for watching.